By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where to go and what to skip on your trip to the Jungfrau region based on what you actually care about when you travel.
We're Janet and Brett, and we have spent years living and traveling in this stunning slice of Switzerland. So we know that not every destination is perfect for every traveler. For example, let's start with the most well-known tourist attraction, Jungfraujoch, top of Europe. Every year, more than 1 million tourists ride up to the highest train station in Europe, perched on a saddle between the Jungfrau and Moch mountain peaks. Once at the top, you're at more than 11,000 feet in elevation. You can see the longest glacier in the Alps, touch snow 365 days a year, walk through an ice palace, mail a letter from the highest postbox in Europe, and even hike to a mountain hut. Look, if you love the most popular tourist attractions, then don't skip Jungfraujoch. It's also worth a visit if you've never touched snow, if you want to see or walk on a glacier, or if you're interested to hike to an alpine hut literally perched on the side of a mountain at nearly 12,000 feet. I mean, I'm just super impressed that some random guy in 1893 was hiking in the mountains with his daughter and had the wild idea to build a train route through the mountain all the way to the top. And then he actually did it. That's just incredible. But it's no secret that Jungfraujoch is the most marketed and the most expensive tourist attraction in the Jungfrau region. So if you're on a budget, don't love crowds, struggle with altitude sickness, or are searching for just more authentic spots, then Jungfraujoch doesn't need to be on your itinerary. In fact, if you think it's going to have the best views because it's the highest point in the region, well, you might be disappointed. We'll share more about our favorite viewpoints later, but this is not one of them. And final point here, we have been to Jungfraujoch at least 5 times, and we have talked to hundreds of travelers about it, and our best advice is just to trust your gut. If you think it's a can't-miss experience, then make sure to visit. But if you're not sure it's worth your time or money, feel the freedom to skip it.
By the way, we're starting with the 9 most popular highlights in the Jungfrau region. In this video, that generally means the areas surrounding Interlaken, Lake Thun and Lake Brienz, and the valleys and mountains above Lauterbrunnen and Grindelwald. And stick around to the end because we're going beyond the highlights with bonus recommendations for views without the effort, destinations for families, and our favorite hiking trails. So let's keep going with number 2. Wengen is a car-free village just above Lauterbrunnen Valley, perched at 4,180 feet. The main street in town is filled with tourist shops, sports stores, restaurants, and hotels. There are a few parks and playgrounds, and even a cable car station that delivers you up to our favorite viewpoint in the region. More on that later in the bonus section. If you're looking for a true mountain village with plenty of places to stay and eat, that's Wengen. It also has luxury spas and easy strolls, especially if you want flatter walks or don't consider yourself a hiker. And for an overnight stay in the mountains, Wengen is worth considering. But this video is about places to visit and not where to stay. For more on that topic, be sure to check out this deep dive into the top 7 towns and villages in the region. Now, Wengen is a village that most travelers will want to see, although it's unlikely you'll spend a lot of time here. We see it as more of a place that you pass through on the way to somewhere else, or maybe a brief stop for a meal or a little tourist shopping. In our opinion, they're just better villages to linger in, and we'll get to those in a moment.
Grindelwald Fierst is just a gondola ride above the village of Grindelwald. And you have amazing views of the Eiger, Schreckhorn, and Wetterhorn the entire 25-minute ride. Once you reach the top, you can test your fear of heights on a cliff walk, enjoy some adventure activities, or hike to Bachhofsee, one of the most beautiful alpine lakes in the region. There are 2 main reasons to visit Grindelwald Fierst, and the first is if you like hiking. The popular trail to Bachhofsee is fairly easy and the lake is really stunning. But there's also an abundance of lesser-known trails where you can find yourself on the path with no one else except for cows and sheep. In particular, hiking to Grosse Scheidegg or the Foulhorn are great alternatives, as are the variety of trails to the Busalp or Waldspitz mountain restaurants. And the second reason to visit is if you're looking for thrills, because there are 4 adventure activities here. The Fierst Flyer and Fierst Glider are zipline-like rides, while the mountain carts and trotty bikes are really fun ways to make your way back down the mountain. Additionally, the Fierst Cliff Walk is really cool because you're walking beside the cliff walls and gazing out over the valley towards all the mountains in the distance. So, who should skip Grindelwald Fierst? Anyone who is not interested in hiking or who is afraid of heights would rule out our two main reasons for visiting. And families with younger children as well, because there's just not a ton for small kids to do up here. In the bonus section later, we'll mention better alternatives for family with kids. But one more quick word here about the adventure activities. Don't waste your vacation waiting in long lines just to do these thrills.
Speaking of Grindelwald, this is one of the two main valleys in the Jungfrau region, and the village itself is nestled among the rolling alpine hills. The central street has nearly all the shops and restaurants, while a handful of side streets are full of B&Bs and hotels. In addition to the main Grindelwald train station, you can also access 4 different cable cars, 2 additional train stations, and lots of mountain bus rides. If you're dreaming about luxury spa treatments with mountain views, then Grindelwald might be the best spot in the Jungfrau region. And foodies won't be disappointed in the local cheese shops and bakeries and cafes, or even the fine dining restaurants. Definitely add Grindelwald to your itinerary if you want to walk in a quiet residential area with sprawling views. All you have to do is walk 5 minutes away from the main street through town, and you'll see exactly what we mean. We stayed in an Airbnb here for 2 weeks before we moved to Switzerland, and every single day we wandered new streets and trails. It was amazing how the village could be crowded with thousands of people, yet we passed 10 times more animals than humans on these paths. Like I just mentioned, the village of Grindelwald can get so crowded. And since it's really just one street, you may want to skip the village if you're trying to avoid the crowds or not interested in tourist shops. But a quick caveat here, we actually think that every traveler should visit the Valley of Grindelwald, even if the village itself won't appeal to everyone.
Lauterbrunnen is the other main valley in the Jungfrau region, famous for its glacial carved valley and towering cliffs. And Lauterbrunnen is the tiny village at the entrance to this valley. It's also famous for its 72 waterfalls, especially Trommelbach, which is literally located inside of the mountain, and Staubach, which you can gaze at from the edge of town. You should definitely go to Lauterbrunnen because it's iconic and stunning, and we do think everybody should see it. If you like walking or biking, the route between Lauterbrunnen and Stechelberg is one of the easiest and most beautiful paths that you will find in the region. And of course, if you love waterfalls, then please come here and play I Spy to see if you can count them all. So we couldn't really come up with a lot of reasons to skip Lauterbrunnen Valley, but the village is just so-so. A lot of tourists come here and walk through town, visit Staubach waterfalls, and then they turn around and call it a day, which is so disappointing to us because it's what lies beyond the village that gives the valley so much charm. So be sure to come here with a spontaneous spirit and plenty of time to linger because the farther you go back into the valley, the more beautiful it gets.
Harderkulm is called the top of Interlaken because it's perched on a narrow ridge just a short, steep funicular ride above town. You won't be able to miss the highlights of Harderkulm, which are all contained within a very small area. A restaurant with a huge terrace, a viewing platform with impressive views, a nature playground, and a few hiking trails. If you want a view of the entire Jungfrau region, you can't skip Harderkulm. From here, you can see the teal blue waters of Lake Brienz, all of the mountain peaks, including the famous Eiger Mönch and Jungfrau, and Lake Thun. One advantage is that Harderkulm stays open later than most mountain destinations, and the restaurant is a surprisingly affordable spot for fondue. So you can eat with a mountain view and enjoy sunset drinks all at the same place. This is also one of the more affordable excursions in the Jungfrau region, so it's great for budget travelers. And if you're looking for a rewarding hike, or you're really on a budget, you can follow a few different trails direct up here from Interlaken. And for all you competitive people out there, see if you can beat my personal best time of 49 minutes. I bet you can do it. But as always, these highlights aren't for everyone. If you're looking for activities or entertainment, you'll be disappointed by Harderkulm. You basically ride up and everything worth seeing is right there. And if you don't like crowds, especially on transportation, then you might want to avoid Harderkulm during peak hours when the funicular is quite full and there's a long line of folks waiting for the next departure.
Speaking of Interlaken, this is the gateway to the Jungfrau region. The name literally translates to between two lakes, appropriate for its position sandwiched between Lake Thun and Lake Brienz. Interlaken is the main transportation hub in the region with 2 train stations, boat docks for cruises on both lakes, and of course the funicular to Harderkulm. If you're looking for amenities, then you're gonna like Interlaken. It has restaurants with nearly every kind of cuisine, some of Brett's favorite cafes, which we made a whole video about, and plenty of small family-run bakeries too. If you're interested in tourist shopping, you'll find lots of that in Interlaken as well. For those of you who are brave enough to go paragliding, or if you just want to see them land, you can do that in Hohemata, the giant field in the middle of town. And the Aare River, which you can see behind me, runs through Interlaken, connecting the two lakes. It's a great spot for a relaxing lakeside stroll or for filming YouTube video. The biggest negative about Interlaken is that you can see the mountains, but you're not actually in them. And in our opinion, it's not super charming. So feel free to skip it if you're looking for that authentic Swiss village feel.
The Schilthorn is a mountain peak above Lauterbrunnen Valley with 360-degree views of more than 200 alpine peaks in Switzerland. It's most popular for the world's first revolving restaurant and its James Bond theme, since this was a filming location for On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which was released in 1969. Make a trip to the Schilthorn for the views, especially on a clear day when you can see as far as Mont Blanc in France and the Black Forest in Germany. You can enjoy them from the panoramic terraces or the revolving restaurant. The food is good, but the rotating views are the real highlight. And don't skip this if you're a James Bond fan. You'll find traces of the Bond influence everywhere, from the bathrooms to the cinema and the mini museum. Lastly, the Berg Thrill Walk is just one station below the Schilthorn and features a heart-stopping rope walk, glass floor, and open-air tunnel. The cliff walk at Grindelwald Fierst is really cool, but we think this one's even better. But our advice is to skip the Schilthorn if the weather is poor, if you're not planning to eat in the revolving restaurant, or you're not interested in the James Bond theme. And while there are hikes to and from the Schilthorn, don't attempt them unless you're a very experienced alpine hiker. The trails are narrow and steep with loose rock and plenty of exposure.
Mürren and Grindelwald are two mountain villages on the cliff between Lauterbrunnen Valley and the Schilthorn. These are the most adorable alpine villages with typical chalets, quaint restaurants, and some of the best trails in the Jungfrau region. And you can even ride up on the world's steepest cable car to get here. Our best advice is that if you only have one day in the Jungfrau region, come here. Mürren is this typical super charming village, and Grindelwald feels like you're stepping back in time to a working farming village. Two of our favorite cafes and one of our favorite restaurants in the entire region are also in Mürren. And there are endless hiking trails directly from both villages. We personally come here to go hiking all the time, and I feel like we've been on every trail there is, only to discover that there are even more. Adrenaline junkies can go paragliding from Mürren or conquer a Via Ferrata, which we made a whole video about. These are the villages to linger in, especially if your idea of a great day is sipping some of the world's best beer with even better views after hiking in the mountains. So who should skip Mürren and Grindelwald? No one. No, seriously. No one. I think everyone should come here. And if you only have one day in the Jungfrau region, make it here.
We're about to go beyond the highlights, but if you're starting to realize this region has a lot of options, you're not wrong. And that's exactly where most travelers get stuck. Not finding things to do, but deciding what to prioritize. So instead of guessing and stressing, our best-selling one-week guide to the Jungfrau region lays it all out in a simple day-to-day plan that just makes sense. What to group together, what to prioritize, and how to move through the region without wasting time or money. But don't worry, we're not done yet. Now let's talk about a few more places in the Jungfrau region you definitely want to know about.
What if you want to enjoy classic views without too much effort? Whether you have limited mobility, you're traveling with little ones, or you just want to relax on your vacation, here are the best views that won't add steps to your pedometer. We think Mainlichen has the best panorama in the whole region. It's a ridgeline that straddles Lauterbrunnen and Grindelwald and directly looks at the Eiger Monch and Jungfrau. Plus, it's an easy cable car or gondola ride from either Wengen or Grindelwald Terminal. Schinnige Platte is a scenic cogwheel train ride up to another ridgeline that has sparkling blue lakes in one direction and the iconic mountain peaks in the other. And as you rest your legs and enjoy the views, you'll be serenaded by traditional Alphorn music too. Ride a tiny cable car big enough for 8 people or 1 cow up to Sulwald. Dine on classic Swiss food or wander on one of the many uncrowded trails. Ride a boat and a historic funicular, and then walk behind Giesbach waterfalls. These stunning cascades overlook the historic Belle Epoque Giesbach Grand Hotel, where you can enjoy drinks or a meal while gazing at the falls and turquoise waters of Lake Brienz. And for even more relaxation, enjoy a steamboat ride on either Lake Brienz or Lake Thun. There are a handful of small villages on the former and both vineyards and castles dotting the latter.
We've already made a video about our top easy hikes in the Jungfrau region, but we're often asked for recommendations about longer or more difficult hikes. So if you're really into connecting your boots to the trail, here are some of our favorites. Hike all the way to the back of the Lauterbrunnen Valley and stay overnight at the Obersteinberg Mountain Hotel. We recommend hiking to the Oberhornsee before breakfast and then enjoying the downhill hike past waterfalls and mountain streams back to Lauterbrunnen. By the way, if this sounds fun to you, we made a whole video about this experience. We also made a video of our hike to the Augstmatthorn, a peak on the stunning narrow Harder Ridge above Interlaken and Lake Brienz. You probably know about this hike, but don't know the best way to actually hike it. So do yourself and your legs a favor by checking out what we shared after our experience. I love hiking to the Ballerhöchst, a lesser-known mountain peak that sits directly across from Schinnige Platte. If our first bonus section was about views without the effort, this hike would make the list for best views requiring effort. Stop for refreshments at the Lubhorn Hut, and you'll wonder why more tourists don't visit this stunning corner of the Jungfrau region. The trail from Griesop to Mürren over the Sefeninfjörge is a can't-miss day hike in the Alps. Start your journey with a ride on the steepest post bus in Europe, and then wind your way to the tune of cowbells up and over a mountain pass with the help of some very strategically placed steps at over 8,500 feet. And one of the best parts about longer or more difficult hikes is that you can often stop at mountain huts for lunch along the way. Some of our favorites include the Rotstock, Bereg, Gleckstein, and Lobhorn huts.
Beyond just the views, the Jungfrau region is definitely a family-friendly destination. We've noticed this for years, and now we get to truly enjoy it with our son. Our favorite recommendation is Pfingsteg. It has a mountain coaster, fly line, bouncy castle, playground, and kids trail. Basically, kids and teens of all ages will find something to like here. Grindelwald Gorge is also nearby. It's interesting to learn about how much the glacier has receded, and it has a massive spider web to climb on over the water. Thrill seekers can even do a canyon swing here. And goodness, the playgrounds in this region are next level. Brett's favorite is the flower-themed one at Almentubel, and my favorite playground is the giant cow at Mannlichen. Although the ship-themed playground at Hohenstein and the one at the Bort cable car station are also really fantastic. If mom and dad want to mix in a little education with vacation, Ballenberg is a 163-acre outdoor museum in Brienz. It has more than 100 historic homes, 200 farm animals, and live demonstrations that paint a realistic snapshot of what daily life was like in the Swiss countryside. If you've noticed the typical little wooden cows in all the tourist shops, you can see how they're carved, painted, and produced at the Traufer Wooden Cow Museum in Brienz. And if it's raining, head inside the St. Beatrice Hole and Caves above Lake Thun.
Now that you've narrowed down your list of places to go in the Jungfrau region, or maybe even added more spots to it, watch our videos about each of these destinations next using the links below, or remove all the guessing and stressing with our customer favorite one-week guide to the Jungfrau region. And we'll see you in Switzerland.